Hi everyone, my name is Ian and I'm the Linux Geek. Welcome to the second video in my series on setting up a Ubuntu web server. In this video, I'm just going to be covering some administrative tasks that are designed to help you better manage your web server on a day-to-day basis. Once you put these in, they will hopefully help you better run your web server and make it easier for running your web server. So follow along and use as many of the tips and ideas that I put into this video, and hopefully it'll help make things easier for you. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to secure root user and give root a new password. When you are installing Ubuntu on your system for the first time, you set up an administrative account and don't give root a password. So there's a default password that is given. So you just want to change that. And in order to do that, it's just sudo passwd root. And it'll ask for the password and you just enter it. So now root has a new password. I normally disable root, and that's because I just think it's a little bit more secure if I'm not using it. So in order to disable any account, all you do is say sudo passwd -l and the name of the user that you're going to disable. And you can always re-enable root at a later time by putting in the sudo password root command and giving it a new password, and that will allow you to use root again. And I just think it's a little bit safer. Now we're going to create a non-administrative account on the system, but we're going to give them sudo access. This will just enable you to not have to run as root or an administrator, which is just a little bit more secure. And you should use this account for maintaining the system on a day-to-day basis. And anytime you want to add a new user, all you have to do is say sudo add user and whatever the username is that you want to give them. Now you could use another command which is very similar, which is user add. The difference between the two is that user add just adds the user and doesn't assign a password or home directory or anything. So you would still have to assign a password with the password command. Whereas add user, it creates the user, it creates a group for that user and a home directory. So I would suggest using add user instead. And as you can see, it added the new user, added the group new user, and added new user to the group new user. And also it created the home directory. Now you just put in a new password for the user, and you can then fill out this information if you want. It's totally optional, so if you want to leave it blank, you can. It's totally your choice. So I'm just going to leave it blank, and then you have to accept that information is correct. And now that we've created that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add this new user to the Sudo group. And that is done very easily by using the command sudo usermod -ag sudo and then the whichever name it is. So now it's added, and if you want to check that it's added, it's just groups, and then this just tells you which groups that new user is in. So now that that's done, that's very easy. If you notice, I haven't been entering my password every time I use the sudo command. And that's because I edited a certain file that allows me to do that. And if you want to be able to use this option, you edit the vi sudo file. There might be people that will say by not having to put in the password is a little bit of a security risk because you should put in a password for it every time you use a sudo command. But I've just used this because I'm going to be using the sudo command for quite a lot while we're setting up the system. And I just didn't want to have to enter it each time. And I can always take this line out again to force me to use in order to force me to use the password again. So if you want to be able to do this, is sudo vi sudo, and he brings up this file. And if you notice down here at the bottom, all I've said is my username with all equal all, and then no password all. So I can put in any sudo command and not have to use my password. I will take this out later on once I've set the computer up. Now that we've done that, we're going to set up the firewall. The firewall should be already installed, and you can always check that by saying sudo ufw status, and you can see that it's active. If it isn't active, then you want to go ahead and install it. Installing it is very easy. It's a Sudo Apt Get install UFW, or whatever the name of the package is that you want to install. And so you can see down here that UFW is already the newest version. You can see that I already have some rules in here, and I'm going to show you how to put those in, especially where it says here where it's from, and it only lists a certain IP range. So I'll show you what to do with that. If you want to allow or not allow IPv6, what you want to do is you want to edit the file of sudo vi etc default UFW. And that the line up here is right up here where it says IPv6 and equal to yes. So if you want to use it, keep it at yes. If you don't want to use IPv6, change that to no. So that's totally your choice. So we now get out of that. And as you see, I already have the rules, but I'm going to take them out and then I'm going to put them back in and show you how to do that. So in order to list them, you use the sudo UFW status and then numbered. If you noticed up here before, when I didn't put in the numbered, it just listed them in the order anyway without the number. But now that when I use the option of numbered, it puts in the numbers over here, and that is if you want to remove any rules, it just lets you. It's just easier for when you're removing them. So sudo UFW remove, and then whatever rule. Oh, sorry, I used the wrong command. So whatever rule you want to take out, you just say sudo UFW delete, and then whatever number it is, and then you say yes. So we're going to do that for each one here. And now if we run this status again, I still have one in there. So I am going to remove that. And now, as you can see, there's nothing in there. So to add a rule to the UFW, it's very simple. I'm going to show you how to add a rule from a specific IP address. If you had noticed before when I had SSH in there, it was only from a certain IP range on my private network. And that just allows you to accept connections only from those IP addresses. So you could put in whatever values you wanted for that, or you could just leave it blank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say sudo UFW allow from, and then so what I'm saying here is that I'm only allowing from all the so what I'm saying here is that I'm saying to UFW to allow from all my private IP range to any port SSH. And now that we put it in there, you can see that it goes to port 22, which is of course your SSH port, and it allows it in from all of my internal IP addresses. So now that we've done that, I'm just going to add HTTP and HTTPS, but I'm going to allow it from anywhere, which is very simple. It's just sudo UFW allow HTTP and sudo UFW allow HTTPS. And as you can see, for both of them, it added the rule for IPv6, and this is just the rule for IPv4. And we can check that now. And as you can see, there's the 5 different rules that have been allowed. So once you have that set up, you want to make sure that UFW is enabled. And don't worry if it says that it's going to, that it may disrupt the SSH connections. Now that, because we already have the SSH in there, it's not going to make a difference. So you can just say yes. And so it confirms that the firewall is active and enabled on the system startup. So that's very, very easy to do that. Next, we're going to update the system. And first thing that you want to do is that you want to check that you have all the repositories available to you and that you're using them. And so what you're going to do is you're going to edit the sudo vi etc apt sources dot list, and within the file you're going to see the main restricted, the universe, the multiverse, and the restricted universe multiverse. You just want to make sure that all of these are uncommented and that you can use them. So just go ahead and uncomment them if they are commented out. So now that you have that running, we're going to update the system. So the first thing that we're going to run is sudo apt get update. And what that does is it just updates the list of what is on your system and compares it to what is able to be updated. So this doesn't actually update your system, it just updates the list of whatever packages can be upgraded. I'm going to enter all the commands onto one line and enter them once and run them at the same time. You don't have to do this, but if you want to, you can. And in order to run several commands at the same time, you separate them by the double ampersand. So in order to actually update the system, you say sudo apt get upgrade. This will upgrade any of the packages that you have on the system. So, and when you run that, you also want to run sudo apt get clean sudo apt get auto clean and sudo apt get auto remove. And what these commands do is the clean just cleans out the cache of what you have for the list that you have on your system. The auto clean, see I mistyped it. Auto clean. The auto clean will remove any of the packages that have already been installed. It will remove the packages from your system. And the auto remove, it removes any of the packages that once you've uninstalled a certain package, it leaves behind the dependencies. And auto remove removes those dependencies that where the package has been removed, but they're still left on the system, but aren't being used by any other program. So once you do that, you want to run it. So as you can see, there's three things that I can upgrade, and so you just want to accept it. And these are all there's sometimes that if the packages need to be restarted, it will tell you which ones need to be restarted. So you can just go ahead and accept all that. So everything is done there now. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set a host name for the computer. And this is really to help you find the computer when you're trying to look for it on your private network. And I can show you what that looks like later on. So this just helps you identify the computer if you're looking for it on a network where there's several computers connected at the same time. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to edit the host name file. And all you have to do is put in whatever name you want to call your computer. So this is what I've done. And as you can see, that's my host name. So put in whatever you want, and so it's listed under etc and host name. Now, another thing that you can do is if you have several computers on your, sorry, I went into the wrong file here. If you have several computers hooked up to your network and you've given them all different hosts, host names, and instead of typing in its IP address, you can set up a file that resolves that, and that's vi sudo etc hosts. And all this does, all you do is here I've given it that this is the local host and that the name of the computer. Now you could also put in, what you would do down here is somewhere in here you would put in the host name of the computers on your system, and you would put in the IP address first and then the name of the computer. That way, if you're trying to log in using SSH later on when we've set it up, you can use the at, when you're using the at symbol, this will allow you to either use the IP address or the name of the computer, so it'll resolve that for you. So I'm not going to add that in right now, so I'll just leave it alone. So that's all there is to that. Now, another thing that you should do is set up the time zones for your computer, and I'm also going to show you how to sync it with other computers, and it's really easy to do. It's just sudo time date ctl, and then should be time date c. It tells you the local time right here and how everything is, what the status of it is. So as you can see, this is my time zone right here. Now, initially, you may not have this set up as your time zone. If you want to set your time zone, you just type in sudo time date ctl and then list time zones, and it's going to come up with all a whole bunch of different, it's going to come up with all the time zones that are available. So you can just scroll through this until you find your time zone. And because like if I go down here to, like, mine was America and Vancouver. So once you found that, in order to use that time zone, you use sudo time date ctl and then set time zone, and then whatever the there, and that will change your time zone. Now, for setting up a syncing, you could set, you want to do time date ctl set ntp to true. Once you've done all this, it's sudo time sorry, Sorry, I'm just not with it today. Or you want to restart that. Like I say, I'm just not with it right now. Systemctl restart, and okay, now that we have the system synced, the next thing that you're going to want to do is just remove any unnecessary packages or programs. The This is what I was talking about when I was saying to um, when you know what you're setting the computer up for, you can know what programs you need and don't need, and this is where you will be able to remove some of the packages and software that you don't need. And so there's a few things that you can remove if you want. I'll show you what they are. Um, these are some of the programs that most computers or most servers won't need. So you can just remove them, and the purge will remove anything from like all the dependencies. And so as you can see, it's going to remove these from my system, and I'm just going to say yes. So there, it's removed all um, those programs from my system. So there, you can go through your system and decide what you want to keep and what you don't want. If you're running just like a web server, I'm setting this up just as a web server, so you may want to remove something like the mail clients like SendMail. Whereas if you were setting up a mail server, you may not want to have Apache on there, so you would remove Apache. So it just, like I say, it depends on what you want and what you're trying to do with the system. And so you just go from there and go through and decide what you want and what you don't want. So that this is going to end this video, and I'm going to move on to setting up your router in the next video. So hopefully this is helping you. Just leave comments if it is helping you, or if there's something you think I should add or change about this video. Please just let me know. Okay, well, I hope to see you in the next video, and hope your day goes well.